It's showtime, baby. Let's go. Woo!
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. This is Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm here, Stats Man Jeff Trinopole, and it's always I bring you sports from a West Side point of view, right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio, home of our new tailgate pregame show. We'll be doing live each and every Bengals home game live at the Moorline Lager House. We'll also be doing a live show each and every Tuesday night there. It's going to be an absolute blast. There is lots of details coming up. I cannot tell you all of them right now, but they're definitely coming up. So make sure you check out the Moorline Lager House. Not this Saturday. It's going to be the first home game. We will be live there. Also, if you guys have not checked out Midwest Best Barbecue, I always ask the same question. Why the hell not? I highly recommend the Uno wings, the Dillinator wings, the CTV wings. They are all delicious. Make sure you tell Tim and Nicole I said hi. They're right off 275 exit. Or 275 Ward's Corner exit. That's Midwest Best Barbecue. Also, if you're in the mood for windows and doors, check out Meyer Window and Doors at www.meyercincinnati.com for all your window and door needs. And the West Side peeps, check out Hail Marys. If you're not going to the Bengals game tomorrow night, go to Hail Marys and watch it together. They got a big-ass TV screen, free parking, beer specials, food trucks, all kinds of delicious stuff there right in the heart of Cheviot. Again, it's Hail Marys, your ticket to the game. What's going on to everybody in the chat? I know it's early. We came early. We got Tony Blaze in there. Michael's in there. Jerome's in there. And Robert, what is going on, guys? Thanks for joining us early on this Friday morning. But, when you get a guy like Skinny, who's a very popular guy and very busy, and we can do it at 10 o'clock in the morning, well, you know what? You jump on and do it at 10 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, let's get to him. Here's the man, the myth, the legend. Here's Skinny. Skinny, what's going on, brother?
How you doing, man?
Good. Long time no see. It's been kind of hot down there at the training camp this year.
Yeah, I've seen you down there enough. You've been around for sure. I try to we try to guess what field they're going to do the stuff on, and every day it feels like they give us the wrong information. Whether that's intentional or not, I don't know. And the one day it was so hot, I said, you know what? I'm just going to watch it from over here. I'm good.
Dude, that last Thursday was the hottest damn day, dude. I was just standing there. I was over by the VIP tent. I wasn't in the tent. I was over by, and I was Skinny. I was just sitting there, just sweating, just roasting.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I'm not a big sweater. I mean, when I even like playing like softball tournaments back in the day on weekends, you play 3, 4, 5 games in a day. I really didn't, feel like I was drenched. I literally just standing there was drenched. Listen, I can remember some 2-a-day practices at Wilmington back in the day that were hot. Maybe it's because they were 2-a-day practices. For the younger people in the audience, they have no idea what I'm talking about.
Right, exactly. Don't know what that is.
But they used to actually practice twice a day too. Not a walkthrough in a practice. 2 full practices in a day. I just don't remember one as hot as last Thursday. I mean, last Thursday was brutal.
Last Thursday was
with pads on. With pads on and actual tackling back in the day.
Yeah. I know. It's like I've talked to Corey Dillon multiple times, like, how in the hell did you make it through that? He goes, you just had to do what you had to do. That's what it was.
It's true. I mean, Dave Lapham famously will talk about Forrest Gregg even after those practices, the famous gassers where you run in place, then you go down to the ground, you pop back up, you keep running in play. I just can't. Those guys had to be these guys today come in tip-top shape, and back in those days, training camp really was kind of like the old spring training for baseball. It's why you came to camp, why you went to spring training to really work yourself into shape. These guys, obviously, with so much money on the line, are normally, not always, but 95, 98% of them are in tip-top shape to begin with.
Yeah, like Jamar Chase is in shape. Trent
Yes.
Brown is
Yeah.
working his way into being
Trent
in shape.
Trent Brown is A shape. I know
A
that much.
shape, yes.
Yeah.
Hey, that's exactly what I tell my wife all the time. Rounds of
Right.
shape.
That's
Exactly.
right.
So we had some concerning news happen yesterday. Chuck Sizzle went down. He got carted off the field. According to Yoshivas, he thinks he got banged his knee, and it sounded like he was, in good spirits in the locker room yesterday.
Yeah, initially when he went down and you're watching it, and I'm trying to watch the rest of practice a little bit as they're working on him, and then you see the cart come out, and it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then I'll be honest with you, Ice, and I didn't tweet this out. I don't think anybody that was there did, but a lot of I know we tweet out that a lot of players came over to like slap him on the helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Usually that's a sign of, oh, they know that this is really,
Yeah.
really bad. And I kind of refrain from that just because, again, you don't know for sure. And then in the locker room, I was surprised actually when we walked in, he was around another group of players and they were all yucking it up with him. And I thought, is this yucking it up in a good way or a bad way? And it seemed like a good way. And then I watched him limp to his locker and I thought, uh-oh, okay. And so we went to try to talk to him and he said, let me take a shower first. And then the Bengals media relations said, no, we're going to keep him off limits today. I think we'll wait for whatever comes out of the MRI that he's going to have. But again, I'll refrain either way from saying good or bad. I would lean towards the side of it's probably good news. I would say because this preseason is so condensed, starting tomorrow with that first preseason game, you got really a 12-day period where you got 3 games and 2 joint practices. I'd be shocked if we saw Charlie Jones back for any of that stuff. But hopefully then, you really we're still 5 weeks from the regular season starting. I would think if it's nothing more than what Dr. Yoshivash thinks it is, which is a knee contusion. And he did. I mean, listen, the kid went to Princeton. He's obviously a smart guy, but I'm not sure he's a doctor, but he thinks it's a knee contusion. And those can be nasty, right? I mean, they can be. They can hurt. But if that's what it is, and that's hopefully what it is, I can't see him not being ready for the regular season.
I love that. We'll have to start calling him Dr. Yoshi now. He's got a new nickname. But yeah, if you bang knees, dude, I mean, we've all done it. I mean, it hurts like hell. I mean, your knee gets swell up. It'll hurt for, I mean, hell, I'm a little older than he is. I was tossing football with my son July 4th, and I tweaked my knee, and, it's a month later. My knee still hurts a little bit.
So. Oh, no, no question. I mean, the again, like I said, when you see the cart come out and players react that way, the first thing you think is, oh gosh, because he was putting no weight on it initially either. I'm like, oh boy, he just blew his knee out. And I again, I'm going to refrain from saying whether either way because I don't know, so I don't want to say. But again, just my opinion based on what I saw talking to people, it seems like he's going to be okay eventually.
Yeah, and it really sucks too because he's had a really good training camp, and when Joe Burrow mentions him by name, to me that's where I'm like, okay, that's a guy that Joe trusts, and Joe's noticing this. So because I was talking to I had Joe on one of my co-hosts on yesterday, and he's not a big Charlie Jones fan. I'm like, look, I'm telling you, they're going to use him. Burrow likes him. Burrow mentioned Yoshivas and he mentioned Charlie Jones. He mentions both those. He's going to throw him the ball. And that's where I'm like, this, it could be, I won't say throw a wrench in what they have going on. It depends on how long Chuck's out. But that being said, the Bengals are hoping and praying that these guys make this jump that the second-year players usually do. And they really need them to do that this year with, the openness of the slot and how they might move people around this year.
Yeah, no question. And to your point, listen, I get if people are down on Charlie Jones because you really didn't see much from him last year, but let's not forget this. Rookies trying to learn slot is a really tough thing to do. There's a lot of responsibility in the slot. There's not just running a route. I mean, you have to read a lot more in coverage. You have to occasionally be a part of pass protection, whether that's just chipping coming out or staying in. A lot of times slot guy's not going to stay in, but you got to sometimes chip on your way out. And you got to know who to chip and whatnot. And then, read defenses, figure out where do I sit down in the zone. And that's a lot. And for Charlie Jones last year, I think the progress was good up until he got hurt, and then he missed 5 weeks. And then by the time he came back, it's, you're in game mode at that point. I mean, there's no ramp up or any of that stuff. There's no extra reps here or there. It's literally, I mean, you're week to week game mode. It's go time. Yeah. And so, he didn't get a chance to learn a ton of that stuff. And listen, I know I can throw out that regular season finale against Cleveland in many ways because Cleveland didn't play the starters, but Charlie did play, and he had 3 catches for 49 yards, had a nice seam route catch.
He's still NFL players.
Sweeps. Yeah. And listen, he's obviously punt returner number 1 too. So you just hope this doesn't hurt the progress to the point of it is regular season time, and Charlie could have used these extra 3 or 4 weeks to continue to learn, and he just didn't get that period of time, and that would be disappointing.
Yeah, exactly. Because everybody's in love with Burton, and don't get me wrong, I love Burton. I think he's going to be a star, but you can't take away the year experience that Charlie Jones and Yoshi Voss have, and
Well,
that does mean something.
trust me on this. Jermaine Burton, they tried to work him in the slot. The kid was so confused, they've now moved him outside and said, we're just going to put you outside. That's not a knock. Again, that's a rookie that you're saying, okay, kid, let's just do this. You learn the outside stuff. We're not going to mess with you in the slot. He had no idea what he was doing in the slot, and that's fine. And maybe he never will. Maybe he's always going to be an outside receiver. But again, to that point, is that tells you how difficult it is to come into this league and go, hey, you're a slot receiver, go do it. Well, it's not. It's just not that easy.
Yeah, it's not like you just plug and play. And the slot is going to be very interesting for the Bengals this year. This is one thing I wish Jamar would play. But Skinny, I'll say this. Jamar, let's just talk about Jamar Chase a little bit here. Sure. Go back to the slot. Jamar's sitting out. Like you said this before, and if he's not willing to miss games, I don't see the point, except that he has no chance of getting hurt and stuff like that. So I like that, but I'll start getting concerned about if he's not going to play about 2 weeks out. If he's not practicing by 2 weeks before the first game, then there's a chance he might sit out week one.
Yeah, the initial one was I said, and I was half joking, but I really wasn't. The first day he sat out, a bunch of us were standing around and said, "When do you think he'll come back?" I said, "Honestly, August 28th. It's the first day after cuts. It's kind of the day that you start ramping up for the opener, August 28th." And then I thought, well, if his end game here is literally he wants the extension and he needs the leverage, then the only way he would do that is to miss some games. And I know that sounds harsh. I know fans don't want to hear that, and that may not be his end game when all is said and done. But to the point of what you said, Jeff, the thing that's interesting to me is I get the whole I don't want to get hurt in practice and camp and all those things, and the thing, though, to me is he can get hurt in games with still the same level of time on his contract this year and next year. So, again, if you're not willing to miss games, what did you do? And to your point, I'm with you. If it's August 28th and he's not practicing, because, again, to me, that's kind of the line of demarcation when, hey, the season's about to start. They're going to start game planning for New England. That's the point in time for me. Then I would think, okay, this is getting real serious. And, I don't know if you saw the story with Jerry Jones yesterday, and we're not going to hear again from Mike Brown. We heard from him at the media luncheon. But Jerry Jones said he has no sense of urgency to sign CeeDee Lamb. And CeeDee Lamb is now getting ready to play on that fifth-year option. I think the sense of urgency for the Bengals and Jamar Chase will come about this point next year if a contract is not done, as he does enter his fifth-year option. That's where the sense of urgency, and that's where I just don't – listen, I get Bengals fans want Jamar paid. I do. But this is kind of where contracts work. I mean, the Bengals have control of him through next year. That's the way this works. If players don't like it, go collectively bargain it in the next CBA, and let's have a different conversation. But you are under contract for this year. It's the way this works. They picked up your fifth-year option for next year to guarantee you $21.8 million. There is no sense of urgency for Jamar Chase other than I get Bengals fans wanting him signed. I do. But the economics of the game are this is the way it plays itself out.
Yeah, and honestly, Skinny, I'm not worried about if the Bengals are going to sign him. They're going to sign him. I mean, honestly, personally, I think they should sign him now because I think he's going to be cheaper now than he will be next year. I think all it's going to do is go up. So I think it makes sense to sign him now. But Jamar doing this, it's not going to scare the Bengals. I mean,
it's not.
We had Carson Palmer who threatened to retire.
Sure.
And the only reason that they traded him because they got such a great deal from the Raiders. That's the only reason they traded him. If they didn't come with that deal, he would have been retired. He would never play again. Yeah,
no, he did. And I don't think he would have retired. I think his leverage he just would have played himself out and gone somewhere else. But to your point, you're right. And again, that's where this thing with Jamar. I get it to a point, but I just don't see the Bengals blinking. I don't. Mike Brown at the media luncheon said these are things that get done in the offseason. I guess we can argue, are we still in the offseason? I don't think we are. I think once camp starts, we're in the season. But, maybe he classifies it as such. There's a part of me initially that thought, okay, maybe they're close, and that's why he doesn't want to do this because he doesn't want to get hurt while they're about to do this. I just don't see it. There's just such a chasm between the guaranteed money the Chase side wants and what the Bengals are willing to offer at this point that it's not going to get done right now. I think eventually the sides will come much closer together, and that's going to come again when you do get to a sense of urgency to sign him.
Exactly. Now, I want to go back to the slot here, where I think it's going to be very interesting because for years we've had Jamar Chase and T on the outside and TB in the slot. That's been the basics of the Bengals offense. I think we're going to see multiple guys in the slot, including Jamar Chase, Gesicki. How diverse or intricate it's the word I want to say, are just trying to confuse the other team. That is this offense going to be that more than last year? Because last year it seemed like they didn't disguise it as good as they could have. And this year we got guys that can play multiple different positions. I think they can disguise it a lot this year.
Yeah, I mean, at the combine, Dan Pitcher, when we talked to him, he talked about a couple of things that I thought were interesting. One, he wanted to find a way to create more explosive plays, and that's just not throwing deep balls. That's creating some explosive plays, maybe with some yards after catch in the run game, in the screen game, all of those things. But he also talked about wanting to use Jamar Chase in the slot more to try to create some mismatches. And I think that's where, the initial conversation coming, off the offseason was who replaces T in the slot. And it really wasn't a guy. It was how are you going to do it? To your point, will it be Jamar Chase? Will it be Charlie Jones at times? Will it be Andre Yoshivas at times? Will it be two tight ends with Mike Gesicki being that guy split out in the slot at times? I do think that's the case. Is you're going to see multiple looks from that. I think they're going to lean into more 12 personnel looks where Gesicki's in with a Tanner Hudson. Gesicki's in with a Drew Sample. Gesicki's in maybe even with an Eric All and flexed out. I mean, Mike's not a great inline blocker. He knows that, but he's certainly a terrific receiver, and he can create some mismatch opportunities. So I think there's a lot of things they want to do. But to your initial point, you'd like to see Jamar Chase do it, right?
Yeah.
If you're gonna put him in the slot, you'd like to say, okay, let's see what it looks like. Let's see how comfortable he is. Let's see the mismatches we really can create, and then, oh wow, this might really work well.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing for me. Is like he's done it before. I mean, I agree with what Joe Burrow said. He said a week. I would prefer like 2 weeks. Of practice to get the time. They got the timing. But to get in the slot, it is different.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned the tight ends, and I would love to see a 2 tight end set. Let's go to the tight end room in general. This is the best tight end room that the Bengals have had, period, bar none, since Burrow's been here. Alt, I think, is going to be our future. As long as he stays healthy, I think he's our future number one. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, he's really the only true 3-down tight end in theory you have. I mean, he's an inline blocker. He can catch it. Probably not as dynamic as Gesicki is as a receiver, but again, if you're looking for a true 3-down guy, that would be Eric All, and I think that is the future of the position group. For right now, it's the mix and match of, on certain downs, you need a better blocker in, then maybe it is Drew Sample in line, maybe it is Eric All in line. So yeah, it's a diverse group. You'd like for Tanner Hudson to be a better blocker. You'd like for Gesicki to be a better blocker, but they're both really good receivers.
They are what they are at this point.
They are what they are at this point. That's right. And then you have to lean into those strengths. And so, to your point, I mean, it's not going to happen for Eric All right away because he's a rookie, but I do think that's the future of the position group for them is him as the 3-down guy, and then you supplement him with backups around him.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I want to roll into the defense here with Bell being back and Dax having to move to corner. I've seen him, and to me, people are like, "Oh, he's not looking all that great." Now, like I said, I am not a professional scout or anything like that. I don't think he's looked terrible. I mean, to me, it looks like he's like in position, but we got a great wide receiving core. They're making the plays over top of him. But for a guy who's moving to a new position he's played before, but never consistently, I think he's doing all right. I don't think he's going to start. I think Drago is going to be the starter. What's your thoughts on Dax Hill's progression of going to the cornerback?
Yeah, I guess I was hoping to be blown away, and I haven't been. There's been good moments, and there have been, to your point, some ugly moments, and some moments where receivers have just won, and sometimes that happens too. But yeah, I do think it'll be when New England comes around. DJ Turner, I don't know what they've done the last. Well, not last, but a handful of practices, and they did this yesterday. They played different cornerback combinations with the first team, and Josh Newton was out there. I'm not here to tell you Josh Newton's about to step into a starting role.
He's been good. Really, yeah, he's had a pretty darn good camp, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, and I just don't think they want to throw a rookie out there. Lou Anarumo has always been adamant he does not like to play rookies unless he has to. But to that point, 2 years ago, Cam Taylor-Britt got thrown in the starting lineup when Cheeto got hurt. Last year, DJ Turner got thrown in the starting lineup because Cheeto wasn't really ready to come back and play. And so, this year, if something happens to an outside corner, you'll probably have to see Josh Newton in there. And to this point, he competes. He's not afraid. He's not afraid to make plays. He's not afraid to occasionally commit a penalty. He's not afraid of anything. And I think that's a good sign. It's just the depth does scare me at that position. And maybe that's every team in the league because you can never have enough corners. You just can't. Right. Maybe, and this is going to sound so bad because the poor kid's gotten bounced around. Maybe Dax isn't an outside corner. Maybe he's a slot corner, and that's eventually where you go with it too. So I don't know. I just have to see more. And listen, I guess maybe again we all were hoping or looking, saying, okay, well, he's going to hit the ground running. It hasn't happened that way, but it hasn't also been like he's an embarrassment out there.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. He has been awful. I mean,
Right.
that's what some of the takes that fans are like, oh my goodness, he's looking so bad. It's like, he's not looking great, but he's not looking terrible. I think, to me, and maybe I'm just optimistic, I think he can improve because he's athletic as hell and he's
Yes,
fast as hell. He can do it. It's just a matter of getting it done, and I think it's reps, and it's football. That's why they practice for 2 months before we actually have a game. You need the reps, and that's where I think Dax is. Now, I do want to I brought up Von Bell and how Lou doesn't like playing rookies, and Battle got thrown in there last year.
Yep.
And to me, I'm like, I thought Battle was probably going to be the starter. Now, I mean, I'll put this. I thought Bell might be the starter, and then Battle might come in later. Honestly, the way it's looking, I think it's Bell to lose right now. I think it's Bell and Stone. What is this? It kind of sucks for Battle because he had a really good rookie year and he's a really good player. What's this mean for Battle's development, do you think?
I think it's two things. One, they want somebody back there who knows this defense. Geno Stone does not yet. He's getting there. Von Bell knows it, and I think that's the big part of last year. We all thought, Dax Hill was going to be okay with Von Bell back there. Well, then Von wasn't back there. Von left, and suddenly it's Dax Hill trying to learn that spot, learn how to call the defense from back there, the coverages. And, oh, by the way, the guy next to you, Nick Scott, has no idea about this defense either.
Yeah.
And Logan Wilson's talked about this, that it's not Logan using his excuse. I mean, Logan and Jermaine Pratt did not have great years last year. And Logan talked about how a lot of times he'd have to turn around to the safeties because he was the one calling the coverage.
Right. And so that's hard. But that's where I think a lot of the problem, because people said that Pratt and Logan Wilson had down years. I think it's because of that, because they had to turn around and try to help get them lined up. And it was more pressure on them than they were used to.
Yeah, and how many times did it feel like last year you saw so many guys in behind linebackers in front of the safeties catching balls in the deep middle? And I think a lot of that's communication. Yeah. And to the point of Von, I think, Lou wants him to be the quarterback back there. I'll tell you what, I've been pleasantly surprised at Von's athleticism. I mean, there's a part of me that thought, okay, he's getting into his 30s. He plays a physical position. He plays a physical brand, kind of coming off of a down year last year in Carolina where he was nicked up. What's he got left in the tank? And I think he's looked absolutely great. I will say this about Jordan Battle. I know the coaching staff wasn't overly thrilled with his maturity last year. They wanted him a little bit more in the playbook. They wanted him a little bit more to be attentive. They wanted him to do things that Von Bell does. So I think bringing Von back is multifold. A, if he's got something left in the tank, it's still a very good football player. B, it's to be the quarterback back there. And C, it's for Jordan Battle to look at a guy and go, oh, that's what a pro does. That's what a pro looks like. That's what a pro looks like at this position. And I think the other part to Jordan Battle, and it is true, I think it's true with a lot of rookies. I mean, they just hit a wall. Yeah. College football seasons are long, but 12 or 13 games where 4 or 5 of those, if you're a major college, are bye games. Yeah, 2 if you're a power program or against 2 crappy teams in your so you're playing 5 to 6 really hard games a year. The NFL, bro, you're playing 17 blank crunchers a year. I mean, that's literally what it is. And so I do think rookies hit that wall. That's like, wow, man, this is week 13 and we still got 5 more to go. Oh, and then the playoffs, maybe? Yeah. That's a lot. That's just a whole lot.
They're like, oh shit, how am I going to get through
this? No question.
All right. So, with that being said, with Geno Stone. Now, I've kind of said this, that I think Geno Stone, we can have the coverage back like we had with Jesse Bates. Stone is definitely not the tackler at all that Jesse Bates is. That is concerning. But I think with Bell and Stone back there, I think we're getting closer to what we had when we had Bates and Bell back there.
Yeah, and Geno hasn't made a lot of plays in camp, but here's the other part too. And I talked to him a little bit about this the other day. I said, part of your job is kind of not getting noticed. He said, yes. He goes, if I get noticed, it means guys are either I'm making bad plays or guys are running past me down the middle of the field. Now, we've seen some deep routes get hit in training camp, but we haven't seen a lot of deep middles. In fact, that practice a couple days ago that was, scuffle filled. Yeah. Jordan Battle actually could have blown T. Higgins up on a deep route down the middle. Fans got all excited because T made a really good catch in between players, but Jordan came flying over and pulled up, wisely so. I mean, that's not what you're supposed to do in that practice setting. Right. So to me, I mean, the safeties have actually kind of done their job in that regard of not letting balls go over the top of them, and that was a big problem last year. Yeah,
exactly. Now, like I said, that's where I think our pass defense is going to be good. I'm still concerned about our run defense. I mean, losing DJ Reader, I know DJ was hurt and everything, we had a not so good run defense last year with him in there. Rankins hasn't played a whole lot because he's been hurt. And now McLaughlin, McLaughlin, I get to him and the tight end wrong. Am I saying it?
McKinley Jackson.
McKinley Jackson, thank you. McKinley Jackson, with him being hurt now, where are we at as far as our run defense go? Are you as concerned about it? Because I'm still kind of concerned about it, to be honest.
Well, again, you go back to the linebackers. I mean, did they not feel at times the way they were supposed? I mean, it felt like we talked to Lou Anarumo every week, and his whole part was missed tackles and run fits. Well,
right.
run fits should not be a problem. I mean, that should be something that in that defense, but our run fits a problem because, everybody's worried about everybody else and not worried about their own job. I'll be worried about it when I guess I need to be worried about it and see to be worried about it.
Right.
I think Chris Jenkins has been pretty good so far. I think BJ Hill's had a great camp. And I do think the fact that, DJ Reader loss is a big one, but I also don't know what you were going to have with DJ Reader with the health this year. I hope he does great in Detroit. I wish him well. He was great in the locker room and always enjoyed talking to him, and he certainly was a very good player here. But I think you're more athletic inside. I think you're deeper inside, even, with McKinley Jackson's injury. And so I do think, I think poor BJ Hill has played far more snaps than they would have wanted him to by default because they've had nobody the last few years to give him much of a blow. And I think this year you're going to see a lot of rotational stuff across the defensive line. I think you'll see some snaps get taken off of Trey Hendrickson. I think you'll see some snaps get taken off of Sam Hubbard. And I think that'll make all those guys more effective. I mean, it's not going to happen. You almost could two platoon. I mean, you could have a front group and then next group comes in for a series, front group goes back in. I don't think they're going to do it that way, mind you. I mean, you're going to want your best guys on the field as much as possible, but you also want those guys to be fresh. And I think defensive line especially is that one position where you need more fresh bodies. Can corners play every snap of a game? Sure. Can safety? Sure. Can linebacker? I don't think defensive linemen can. I mean, you're at the point of attack of every single solitary play.
You're in a car wreck every play.
Correct. And I think the more that you can have, the merrier. And I think they've got that. I think they've done a nice job of building depth. It's a matter of can some of these guys play, and we're going to find out here in the preseason and obviously early in the regular season.
Yeah, that's what I've been looking forward to is a rotation. Because honestly, Skinny, we haven't had a rotation like close to this like we did when we went on a Super Bowl run when Larry O was here.
Yeah, no, I mean Ogunjobi and BJ Hill were a perfect complement to one another. And then Larry leaves, and you thought Zach Carter could be that guy, and he hasn't been that guy. And so by default, BJ Hill's had to play a ton of snaps, and I think it's hurt BJ. I think when he's fresh. Yes. He's a good player. I mean, he tore practice up yesterday. He was great. And I've seen that at times in camp. And I just think it's one of those guys that, unfortunately, he knows he has to pace himself in games. And then it gets late in games, and he's out there for far too many snaps, and he doesn't have it in the tank. And, that Ogunjobi BJ Hill rotation was terrific the year they went to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, another training camp battle we got is the punter. And I look, they cut cut one of them now, so we're down to
McNamara.
We're down to two punters now. I still think it's Brad's to lose, to be honest, because from what I've seen is it's going to come down to consistency, and I really do think the holding of the field goal is a big deal to Darren Simmons. I mean, what's your thoughts on how the punting competition has gone so far?
Yeah, it is and it isn't. It's funny you say that. I mean, the guy has to be able to hold. That part is no doubt. I mean, you have to be able to do it. But he made a point to us at the media lunch I thought was funny, to be honest. He said, listen, the punter battle is going to come down to who can punt, and the holding is secondary, and Evan's just going to have to adjust. And I went, okay. Now, again, doesn't mean the guy can't. The guy's got to have holding ability.
Yeah.
McNamara did it. I haven't talked to Darren. I'm assuming Rakow can do it. I mean, you wouldn't have brought him in if he couldn't do it, so I'm assuming he can do it. And to your point, I mean, when he gets a hold of one, it is lights out. I mean, he had 175 yards with about 6 seconds hang time the other day.
Yeah, but the next one's 30 and it's
40 yards. Yeah, the total. It's the one where you hit the 280-yard drive and then you hit the 120-yard slice. And I think the consistency part for me. So I do think when push comes to shove, no matter what the final average says, I mean, Rakow's average might be 48.2 and Robbins is 46.1, and you go, well, you got to take the better average guy. I think when push comes to shove, if Robbins is consistent, that he makes it and they stash Rakow on the practice squad. And if for whatever reason Robbins gets off to a shaky start, and let's just say behind the scenes Rakow's really punting well in practices that we don't see, that they would end up making a move to put him on the active roster. I just think you do. I think for Darren it would be more, the devil I do know than the devil I really don't at this point. And again, unless Brad just has an awful preseason and this kid, maybe the consistency does come, because again, when he hits it, there ain't no doubt he hits it.
No, He blasted them. It's just that's what I keep telling everybody. Somebody was like, "Oh my God, that's a great punt." I was like, "Yeah, but watch the next one."
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's part of that. That's literally the league in a nutshell. Is we see it from a lot of guys. We see a wide receiver make a flash play. It's like, well, how's that guy not going to make the route? Well, then 2 plays later, maybe he runs the wrong route, and then 3 plays later he drops one, and then 5 plays later, oh wow, he made another great play. Well, yeah, you see the great play, but maybe you don't see that he hasn't run the right route 5 or 6 times, right?
Right,
and that's what this
right,
league
exactly.
is. It's a league of consistency. That's what coaches want. And so the punter thing is that you're going to see this kid. I guarantee you, Saturday night he's going to hit one where you're like, holy cow. And then he's probably gonna hit one. You're like, oh wow. I mean, it just is what it is.
That's a perfect shirt. Holy cow! Then oh wow.
Yeah, exactly.
So we talk about Trent Brown coming in the camp. Dude, I think it's Mims. I think it's Mims is gonna be a starting right tackle. I don't, unless something just happens and Trent Brown just blows us away. I don't think Mims has done anything to lose the shot. I mean, when you got guys like Jeff Hobson and guys like Dave Lapham saying that they're comparing him, not saying he's going to be as good as, but stuff he does to Anthony Munoz and to Willie Anderson. Those are high praises to me for a rookie coming in. Like I said, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I talked to Frank Pollock the other day, and usually when you talk to coaches about rookies, you get well, yeah, it's early, and we need to see more, and it's still a work in progress. He gushed probably more about him than I've heard a coach gush in a while, and he said, I said, there's been a couple of practice, Frank, where he's just locked up Miles Murphy, and I said, Miles isn't a small guy, and I said, I'm not knocking Miles here. He said, no, I know your point. He said, he's just freakishly strong to where he can get a guy and still have the athleticism to move his feet and keep pushing that guy out. And he said it's a freakish talent. And you combine that with everybody's giving him high praise for work ethic and his attentiveness in meetings. And when Joe Burrow says in a press conference, "Hey man, he's A+," all these veterans really seem very supportive of him. And I think to your point, I think it is his job to lose. And he could lose it in the preseason. It might be when the lights come on and there's other guys across from him and they're throwing different looks at you that he's a complete mess and loss. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. And so I don't think this is Trent Brown's job to win any longer. I think it's really Amarius Mims' job to lose at this point. And I don't think I'd have said that in OTAs. I really thought the whole thing was, okay, Trent Brown has started 93 games in this league. Mims has started 8 college games. Mims is going to come in and his head's going to be swimming, and we're going to watch speed rushers go around him. And I've seen Sam Hubbard, make a move on him in camps.
It every time.
Sure, it happens. But other than really that, he's literally wowed in camp. And so I think for them, it is literally, hey, the guy's done everything we thought and more, and we're not afraid to plug him in at this point. Again, unless he has just disastrous. Again, it's a big 12 days for a lot of these guys, Mims included, between the 3 preseason games and the joint practices. He's going to see a bunch of different looks, and he's going to see it. The good part is, especially in those joint practices, against first teamers on the other team. And so you're going to be able to gauge. It's not Mims coming in with the second and third teamers, and boy, he's dominating guys who aren't going to make rosters. No, I want to see him go against the ones, and I know they do too.
Right, exactly. And I always think, I mean, to be honest, it's the best case scenario. You want your first round, your number 1 pick to take over. And Trent Brown, if he is the swing tackle, I'm more comfortable with that because he's played left tackle, he's played right tackle. If these guys go down, you don't have to take this guy and move this guy, put this guy. You can just plug in one guy. And to me, that's like Lapham says all the time. The offensive line's a fish. You want the same 5 guys out there, and if one of them gets hurt, you just plug and play Trent Brown in there. That to me is a good sign. Now,
and to that point, real quick, to your point, that's a great point. It probably would have been shakier if Mims had not gone and won this job, and then okay, he's the backup swing tackle by default. Is he really ready? I don't. Yeah, I mean, Trent Brown. You to your point, he's done it, so he's ready to do it. I think that's the good part. And then on top of it, all the best part of it is Mims goes out and wins the job, and that's what you wanted him to do.
Right. Exactly. Now, with that being said, I'm not in love with the offensive line depth, to be honest. I wish they would add to it. And me and my co-host yesterday got a little argument about this. I still think Jackson Carman at this point is going to make this team. I know by default.
By default.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Because unless cut down day comes and they find somebody, oh my God, we got to get this guy, then they could put up. But I don't think there's anybody on this team that's better than what he is, and like I said, by default. So that's where people like it or not, that's where we're at. Do you see the Bengals trying to go out and cut down day and trying to add to this room at all?
Yeah, I mean, don't forget, they added Max Sharping a couple years ago after Final Cut, and Max ended up being a fairly valuable backup piece. It was a depth piece, and yeah, I do see that. Right now, if you kept 10 linemen, it would be the 5 starters, Mims, and then Trent Brown and Cody Ford, and then it's a battle for the backup center spot. I think Jackson Kirkland probably makes his team as a backup guard, and then you're down to, do you keep a 10th? And if the 10th is kept, it's probably a tackle. If it's a tackle, Jackson Carman still struggles, and he's got a lot of still, in my opinion, a lot of immaturity to him. But if it's between him and Devin Cochran, it's not even a race. I mean, he's just a better player. And again, that's damning praise, I know.
But it is.
And I would say this: the one positive I would say about Jackson Carman, again, his work ethic's been questioned, and it's rightfully been questioned. The handful of times he's gotten a chance to start at his natural position, left tackle, he's done okay. And I guess that's the part of, maybe this is a kid that just when he has to, and you have to throw him in and the lights come on, he gets the job done enough. Again, I thought he was pretty good in the playoff games when he had to start at left tackle.
The Buffalo game, I had no problem.
Buffalo game was great. Yeah.
Kansas City game,
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, but most of the Kansas City game, unfortunately, was Max Sharping trying to block Chris Jones. So that was an issue. But to your original question, I do think they will look hard. I just think I will say this for fans wondering, why is the depth not better, all that stuff. I think the thing for me is offensive line play in the league is just really hard to evaluate. And the line play in the league overall just isn't very good. And so, I mean, if you're taking somebody else's cast off, maybe he's better than what you got. Doesn't mean he's very good, probably. Right. But yeah, to your point, I do think they look when final cuts come to try to add to that room.
Now, what's your thoughts on Cordell Volson? Because, I mean, for years it was Jonah Williams, and now it's everybody switched to Cordell Volson, which, again, I think Cordell Volson is good. He is what he is. I don't know. I hope he makes a leap. I mean, he got better the second half of last year than the first. So I think he's progressing the right way. I don't know if he's ever going to be as good as everybody thinks he should be. But what's your thoughts on Cordell Volson?
Yeah, I thought he was great the second half of last year. Frank Pollock's still very high on him, and I guess fans can question Frank Pollock's sanity. I know this. Listen, I have no knock against Pro Football Focus. I think they serve a purpose, but their grade isn't the be-all end-all. Correct. I mean, coaching staffs again, they don't know what a guy's specific role is on a play. And sometimes it's easy to point out, this guy, maybe he went to pick up somebody else because he was supposed to, and the guy that it looks like beat his ass was supposed to be picked up by somebody else because the game was played up front. So again, I think Cordell Volson is a solid player. You're not going to have 5 Pro Bowl offensive linemen, folks. You're just not. And right now they don't have anybody on the roster who's better than him to plug in. And again, that's not, I don't want that to be damning praise. He is a solid NFL starter. And if you're talking about a left guard who's a solid NFL starter, I'm good with that. And to your point, again, he had to get plugged in as a rookie and did okay. Yeah, he did struggle early last year. Maybe those struggles were Joe Burrow related because of the calf. And again, and maybe not. Maybe that was Cordell too. But the second half of last year, I thought he played better. The coaching staff thought he played better, and they still very much believe in him.
Speaking of Joe, this is the longest. I'm gonna knock on wood while I'm saying this. This is the longest he's went in training camp without being injured. To me, that bodes well for the slow start that the Bengals constantly get off to, last couple of years. I really do think it has a lot to do with Joe not being able to get the reps. We just talk about this on the podcast. Reps. You need reps. Joe hasn't gotten the reps. He's getting them now. How much do you think that helps, and how much do you think he will play, or how long do you think he and the starters will play Saturday night?
I think it does help. I will say the slow starts, I think, are multifold. I think some of it also is he's come into seasons hurt, or coming off of an issue, the appendicitis.
You got the knee injury, you got the appendectomy, and then you got the calf lash. Just three years in a row.
Years in a row. And even the year of the appendectomy, and he was horrible in that opener, as you recall, against Pittsburgh. I mean, they still win that game if Clark Harris doesn't get hurt. I mean, the long snapper's what cost him. So, the slow starts, I mean, you can't ignore it. I mean, they're 1-9 in the first 2 games of Zach Taylor's tenure. But I can also point back and go, the 2019 team was terrible. So that's the reason for that team not getting off to a good start. Right. The next year was, remember, they had an A.J. Green touchdown pass wiped out by a questionable penalty. That would have been a win. And
How is that not a touchdown? I still don't know how that was not. Anyway, sorry.
But no, that gets lumped into a loss, and I don't think that was because of anything other than maybe a bad call. Then you have Joe coming off the knee. Then you have, and they actually won the year Joe coming off of a knee. That was when they beat Minnesota. Then you have Joe in the appendectomy and the long snapper issue. That was why that was a loss. And then last year you have Joe in the calf. So all these are somewhat tied together for different reasons. But I do think Joe is the reps Joe has gotten is huge. And to your other question, I'm guessing 7 to 10 plays. You know, if they have a first drive that's a 3 and out, I would guess you see him one more. If the first drive goes 7 or 8 plays and they pick up a couple 3 first downs and end up not scoring, I don't think you see him. And if that first drive extends to whatever it takes to score, I think you'd see him finish off that drive. I think the last test to see Joe Burrow is when he gets hit. How does he brace a fall? How does he recover from that? The first time he falls and braces it, does it hurt him? Does he re-injure it? Is it normal? We don't know, and he doesn't know, and that can be a little worrisome too, right? Is that all you're thinking about when you're dropping back? Is okay, when I get hit, how am I going to handle this? And so I think that's the kind of the final hurdle for him to clear, and I think it's actually a really big hurdle. And I guess the good part for me is you get to see it in preseason. You don't have to wait to the regular season to see how is he going to react to getting hit. And I think he knows that. He's even talked about that. He said, last week when he talked to us, he said, do I want to get hit? No. Do I need to get hit? Yeah. And so I think that's where we're at, and he needs to get hit on Saturday night.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because the thing is, like you just said, you don't want him, thinking about getting hit and then how am I going to fall? Am I going to turn, protect it, and fall on my shoulder?
Right.
Am I going to try to turn and fall on my back? Or, because those are things that are going to go through his head because he doesn't want to land on his wrist if he doesn't have to, if he can't. So those are things that once he gets hit, it's like, all right, get that out of the way, and then we can move forward. So it's just like when he got hit on his knee for the first time.
I can still remember that training camp. He was terrible in about the first 3 or 4 practices, and one day talking to us, he kind of talked truth to power, where he's like, I got to just stop worrying about my knee and guys around me and just play. Yep. And from that point forward, he did, and he was fine. But there's no question those first handful of practices coming off that knee thing, he was a mess because that's all he was thinking about, and that's human. I get it.
So speaking of that, how people ask me about how Joe Burrow's looking throwing the ball, and for me, I've said beginning of camp they didn't do a lot of deep balls, so we didn't see those. And when they started throwing the deep balls at first, they weren't looking as good as they normally do. And some people are like, oh, well, that's not good. It's like, well, a deep ball, you got to practice it, just like anything else. I think his deep ball and everything right now is getting close to his old form as we've seen. What's your thoughts on how Joe's throwing the ball and spinning it?
Yeah, and I do think early in camp that was by design. They're not going to tell us that. He's not going to tell us that he wasn't looking to rip it. I think he was gradually building up to that of making sure, okay, how's the ball come out of my hands? And he even said it early in camp, it's not spinning the way I want it to. And it wasn't. I mean, there were some wonky passes that he threw early in camp. And I get it. And slowly I think he's got the confidence built up. And then on Friday, I think he just finally let it rip. He let one rip to Charlie Jones up the sideline. He let one rip on the run to Shedrick Jackson down the middle, and they were both perfect throws. And, then after that, the last handful of days this week, he's thrown the deep ball more and better. And he overthrew Shedrick Jackson the other day, but if you want to talk about a guy letting it rip, I mean,
he let it rip.
He let it rip.
He overthrew him by a lot too.
He did overthrow him by a lot, and that's hard to do because that kid can really run. So, but and you go, well, shouldn't you try to complete that? Sure, but again, if you're just looking just from a pure letting it rip standpoint, he let that one rip pretty good. And I think it's been a buildup more than anything else. I don't think they would tell you it was by design, but I honestly think it was by design, and so I think it's progressed as well as I would have thought it would have, and maybe even better, to be honest with you, because I think I told you the last time I was on, and it was during OTAs or whatever, I still need to see him let it rip in camp. Yeah, that's when I'm going to know if he's back or not. And finally, I think you're starting to see that out of him.
Yeah, the one thing I want to see, I've seen him make the touch, to tee. I'm still like seeing the touch over the middle. There's a couple of where I've seen where he hasn't really dropped it right in yet. It's getting there. But those are ones I think he still needs to get better at that. Like, I don't know. That's just for me looking at what I've seen. Those are ones he still hasn't got the touch yet, if that makes sense with him.
Yeah, he had Trenton Irwin on a seam route a couple days ago, and Trenton barely got a hand up to get a hand on it. And I thought, I've seen you make that throw before. And again, I think that's nitpicking a little bit on both of our parts. But probably, but
he's so good. We're used to it.
Correct. No, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
So, all right, let's talk about running backs here in the last couple minutes here before I let you go. I think it's going to be 3 running backs. I mean, I think you got Moss and Brown, and I think Travion is number 3. Unless Chris Evans just goes off on kick or punt return. What's your thoughts on the running back room?
Yeah, I again, when you start putting this roster together, they have so many wide receivers. I initially thought they'd keep 6. I'm leaning more towards 7, and I'm including Jamar in that group, obviously. And to do that, you have to shave at other spots. And so I shaved at running back. I again, the 53 I did before camp, and I'm not the gospel by any stretch. I think most of us that have done 53s have kept 3 running backs, and Chris Evans, again, I don't think anybody picks him up and puts him on their active roster. I think you can probably stash him on the practice squad. And so to your point, yeah, the 3 that you mentioned, Chase Brown, Zach Moss, and Travion Williams. And on a team that, again, and most teams in the league are these days anyway. I mean, you're a 1-back set, so really 3 running backs up on game day is really all you need anyway. And so I think that's all you need to keep on your active roster. Running back is always hard to tell in camp, right? Because you can see guys go through holes, and was he tagged? Did he get
Chase
through?
Brown has looked pretty good though. There's a couple of times he's went through the holes and nobody's touched him. I don't think even they were going to tackle him.
Yeah, and even at that, even if let's just say they tagged him in the hole or whatever, and when he gets past that first and second level, you see the athleticism and the speed and the playmaking ability, and we saw that a few times last year. He just didn't have a ton of touches. Right. I think they're going to really complement each other really, really well. I don't know what the rotation will look like. Maybe there's a game where just because of the style of play, Zach Moss gets 18 carries between the tackles and Chase Brown gets 6 touches, and there might be a game where Chase Brown gets 18 touches, and 5 of those are on screens, and 2 of those are on check downs, and 9 of those are on runs, or 11 of those. I think it's a fluid situation that, talking to Zach Taylor at the media luncheon, I asked him if, how do you want this to shake out? He said, I just want it to happen organically. Whoever, is the hot hand or however it works out, that's how it's going to work out. And I think that's what we're going to see. So, I did a fantasy football radio show the other day. They were trying to go team by team, and they were asking me, which running back? I said, honestly, I'm not sure I'd tell you to take either one because I just don't know if one of them is going to be the main guy. I mean, maybe take one and stash him. Zach Moss is probably a bigger guy, and if you're looking for the goal line guy, he's probably it. But I'm not even sure I can assure you of that yet at this point.
That's why I would love Denver to cut Samaje and we get him back to be our goal line back. That'd be great.
There's your goal line back.
But I agree. I mean, people in the chat here are like, "Oh, it's gonna be a 2-back offense." It's gonna be one set. They're not gonna do 2. And I agree. That's kind of the way I think it's gonna be. Whoever's the hottest. But just my eyes, from what I've seen of Chase Brown, if he can get off to a good start and he become that guy, he could be a pretty explosive running back, more explosive. And this is not a knock on Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon is going to work better in Houston than he did here. I think we're going to have more explosive plays from our running backs with Chase Brown and Zach Moss than we did with Mixon. Does that make sense of what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, I mean, you look at the numbers from last year. Joe Mixon he didn't have a very good year. He really didn't. I mean, the advanced metrics suggest that his average yards per carry of expectancy was not very good. Every advanced metric just wasn't good. And you look at the explosive plays, 20 plus runs. He only had 1 going in the Cleveland game. Now he had 2 in the Cleveland game against the backups. Right. So I'm going to toss that out. And they ran into a lot of light boxes. Because what do you think defenses are doing? They're not going to let Jamar Chase run by them, so they're playing 2 deep safeties. Hey, running into light boxes with a guy that can get to the second level, and both of these guys can. Zach Moss had some pretty good numbers in Indy last year doing that. You have a chance to Dan Pitcher's point, even more explosive plays in the running game, and I think that's what they're looking for. And again, I go back to my favorite quote from last year. It was the frustration of the run game, Brian Callahan, when he said, we get what's blocked and not much more. And I think that was an indictment on Joe Mixon last year. And listen, Joe had a good career here. He served his purpose. He served it well. I know fans are probably ticked off that they trade him. They made the right move. They really did. They needed to get more explosive.
Yeah, they did good by him by trading. They could have just cut him and sent him off to the Wolves.
Correct.
He got to keep his contract, plus he got an extension. They did good by Joe Mixon. And the same thing with, I've said this, and I love Joe Mixon, but he didn't make guys miss. Like he could, when he was younger. Yeah, he used to. He could sit behind the line and he could dance a little bit and then go. He can't do that anymore. He's got to hit the hole and go.
that's the life of a running back. That's
Yeah.
why you're seeing more and more teams just simply say, we're not paying a second contract to guys. We're not paying a large salary to guys. That, listen, running back has a short life expectancy in this league. And so Joe has actually had a very long life expectancy. He's had a longer career than most running backs, and maybe still has a little something left in the tank. I just think they want to be more explosive, and that just is not him anymore.
And that's the whole point, I think, to this offense this year is to be explosive and be deceptive. And the thing is, with the concerns that I have with the defense as far as the run game goes, a good way to be a good defensive team is to be a good offensive team. If you can go out there and you can get off to fast starts and you can drop 30 on people and make them chase you every single week, well, what that does? It takes the run game away from them. So that helps to the Bengals with the run defense. That to me right there is a good defense is a good offense, and that's where I think that this team hopefully has got a mindset toward that this year.
I mean, you've heard it 1,000 times. Coaches say it, players say it, complimentary football. I mean, that's literally what it is.
Exactly. Skinny, I appreciate you, man. You've been on for 49 minutes. I can't wait till Saturday night. Real quick, how'd the new turf look? Real quick before I let you go.
Brighter, for lack of a better term. No, it really did. The green looked brighter. The paint looked brighter. It all looked brighter. It looked a little different. I mean, football fields are football fields, right? It did look a little different. I think if you're going to the game Saturday, I think that's the thing that you would come away with is the field looks brighter. And that old turf was old.
Yeah, it was. And what they work with is the locker room. Is it more like a club? Or are they going to have like lights flashing when we get a win now?
So it's funny. So the first day we went in there, it had that club vibe to it, and I thought, okay, well, when the players come in and we're in there for normal, and they're in for normal, the lights will go. It still has the club feel. The one thing I got to tell people is this: most NFL locker rooms, hockey locker rooms are probably the worst. But most NFL locker rooms smell like what you would think, right? They smell like a locker room. Well, these locker rooms actually have fans that send the air out,
right?
And it still has a very much of a new car smell to it. It's like, damn, I don't feel like I'm in a locker room anymore. So yeah, it does. It has a club vibe with no smell in it. That's a good thing.
Dude, my son played travel hockey for years.
Oh,
I've been in plenty of hockey They are the worst smelling locker rooms ever. I mean, especially for rinks that don't really, they're old Ricky Dick rinks. They're not, well taken care of. Oh my God, they're some of the worst smells ever.
No question.
But got a question. Will we be seeing Richard Skinner in there, doing a little fist bump with the lights in there?
My dance, it's weird. My daughter is a dancer. She was a dance major in college, and she does have moves. And when we go to weddings, when I over imbibe, I'll dance with her. But if it's not her and I haven't over imbibed, there's no chance. I have no rhythm whatsoever.
Oh, well, I got to get with you because I got to get you to try some of this.
Absolutely.
I got a whole bunch of them sitting here in the ice cave, so I will get with you and you can actually try it this year.
That sounds like a plan.
All right, Skinny. I will see you. Well, I'll probably see you Saturday. I'll see you down at practice for sure.
Yep. Monday's the next practice.
All right. Take it easy, buddy.
All right. Take care.
See ya. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Go check out Skinny on everything he's got going on Local 12. He's their digital media guy. He's a great follow on Twitter. And he's just generally a good dude. I like working with Skinny. And Doggy over there, too, at Channel 12. They're both really good dudes. So, anyway, I appreciate you guys joining me here at 10 o'clock in the morning. Like I said, I can only get Skinny on now because, like I said, this time of year, it's hard to get these guys on because they work damn near every day. If the Bengals are doing something, they got to be down at the stadium and writing about it, talking about it, doing something like that. So it's really hard to get these guys on. So my thanks to Skinny for joining and making time for me. But as always, thanks for watching. I've been live streaming on ZTV Online, YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch. You can follow me on all those along with Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. And as always, I like to remind you, I will be doing, not this Saturday, it's going to be the first regular season home game. We will be doing a tailgate pregame show at the Moorline Lager House. It will be a price point. Like I said, I got details coming. I promise it's coming very, very soon. Hopefully, maybe this next week I'll be able to announce some more stuff. But you will be able to enjoy delicious Moorline food, delicious Moorline beer, access to the bourbon room. Like I said, we will have some former Bengals there. It is going to be an absolute blast. And I will be doing a live show there each and every Tuesday. It'll be me and Corey Dillon. Maybe I have some Bengals on then too. Who knows? We'll find that out as we go along. But between now and then, please do me a favor. Visit Moorline Lager House and tell them I sent you. And Have you tried out Midwest Best Barbecue yet? I ask this question all the time. If you haven't, why the hell not? The Dillinator wings, I think, are my favorite wings. And that's not because Corey Dillon's my friend. They are really legitly good. I like those a lot. The CTB wings are good. The Uno wings are good. The Chief Funk. They are all delicious. And if you don't want wings, go there and get you some of the pulled pork sandwich. Get some of the mac and cheese. The cornbread's delicious. Whenever Tim makes that chili with a brisket, oh, dude, that's good too. So make sure you go out on the east side, right off 275, Wards Corner Avenue exit. It's Midwest Best Barbecue. And if you guys are in the market for any windows and doors, please do me a favor. Check out Matty Myers and Meyer Windows and Doors at www.myerscincinnati.com for all your window and door needs. I have it in my house. I suggest you get them in yours. They are energy efficient, great looking windows. And you can come, Matty will show up in the Jackpot Joe and you can talk football. You can talk some golf. You can buy some windows. Be cool. Again, that's Meyer Windows and Doors at www.myerscincinnati.com. And my West Side peeps, go check out Hail Mary's. Your ticket to the game. It's right in the heart of Cheviot. They have free parking right across the street. They have beer specials, food trucks, big-ass TV screen, great bartenders, an awesome environment for any and all of your sporty events. If you're, like I said, if you're not going to the game Saturday night, go watch it down at Hail Mary's. Now you can watch the Olympics. The basketball team is going to be playing for the gold at 3:30 tomorrow. Go to Hail Mary's, check it out. Again, Hail Mary's, your ticket to the game. Again, guys, I appreciate you guys jumping on early. If you missed any of the show, go back and rewind it. Has a great insight from my buddy Richard Skinny. I will see you guys Monday. I'll be back with Clock Killing Corey Dillon, Bengals captain for our usual Monday show. And other than that, you guys have a wonderful day, great weekend, and that's your sports, baby. See ya!